the director of the Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies at the Heritage Foundation. Luke, from both sides of the political spectrum, there has been criticism of, at the very least, how the drawdown was handled. What should have happened here?
Well, absolutely, and that criticism is warranted. What should have happened is that the United States should have left behind its core force of about 2,500 soldiers and left in place the maintenance and logistics contractors that were supporting the Afghan military and left behind the close air support capability. This was enough to keep the Taliban at bay. It was enough to make sure that the Taliban government remained in power. And it was enough to ensure that the U.S. was able to advance its interests in the region. But instead, President Biden threw all of this out almost overnight, and the Afghan military lost the will and the morale to continue fighting when all of the key support was also removed. And now we have a situation today where, in a twist of geopolitical irony, the Taliban will control more of Afghanistan on September 11th, 2021 than it did on September 11th, 2001. So it's a very bad day for U.S. foreign policy and for the U.S.'s role on the world stage in general.
As the Taliban showed such will to take over, first provinces and then cities, there's a real argument that a remainder force that the U.S. and NATO would leave behind would not really ever be enough, that this would just prolong the war, potentially intensify it. Plus, you have the Trump administration having made a deal with a deadline for pulling out of Afghanistan. This put the Biden administration in a very tough position. Would you not agree?
Well, elections have consequences, and the American people chose Joe Biden. And when there's a new administration, they can develop their own strategies. And it was clear by anyone watching that the Taliban was not living up to their side of the bargain. Violence was increasing week on week, month on month. So President Biden could have exhibited some leadership and pursued his own strategy and path in Afghanistan and kept this core force behind. And I would argue that the small footprint, that small force was enough because up until last week, the Taliban for almost 20 years couldn't even capture and hold a provincial capital. Now they control virtually the whole country. So I think that, President Biden wanted to get out at any cost. This was probably one of the few things he shares in common with President Trump. And now we are seeing this play out right before our eyes on social media and the internet, how tragic and horrific the situation is. And this could have all been avoided had we maintained the small force in the country like we had before.
The American argument for fighting al-Qaeda, fighting the Taliban, fighting ISIS, is always that this is a security risk well beyond immediate borders. So what are the risks in today's world of having a Taliban-ruled state?
Oh gosh, the consequences of this are unforeseen. It's going to take. We will not feel the full impact of the developments from this week until years into the future. We have a loss of American credibility and prestige among many of our allies and partners. We have many of America's adversaries who are taking advantage of this opportunity to show how incompetent and incapable America is to manage its own affairs. And then we have the threat that, yes, someday Afghanistan could be used as a base for transnational terrorism. Granted, there are many other places around the world that terrorists can use, but Afghanistan is likely to become just another place. And one of the success stories, at least from an American point of view, admittedly, this is a selfish point of view, and as an American, I'll admit that, but one of the success stories of the past 20 years in Afghanistan is that there hasn't been another terrorist attack against the United States that has been planned and launched from Afghanistan. So, before President Biden decided to withdraw all the U.S. forces, the Afghan government was in control. Now, the Taliban are in control, and that's the big difference.
All right, Luke, thank you for that.